Dr.Jackie's here, changing life loving you. Yeah, that's the groove, life loving you. Feel the truth, move, life loving you. It's all we do, come on through, it's just for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Love, Life, and You. We've got a quick update. Dr. Jacquie is out of town this week attending a conference, so the good news is she's doing well and staying busy. But the not so good news is we won't have a new live episode for you today. But don't worry, we're not leaving you empty-handed. This week, we're sharing a powerful keynote clip from Dr. Jacquie on a topic that speaks to the heart of growth and connection: the power of being wrong. This message dives into the ways our relationships can get stuck in cycles, how our pride can get in the way of healing, and how choosing humility, yes, even being willing to be wrong, can open the door to deeper love and transformation. We hope this speaks to you, challenges you, and helps you get one step closer to your love, life, and you goals. Let's dive in.
Tonight we learned about potential and how many of us are born with it inherently, but so few of us really attain our full potential. Because if we had, we probably wouldn't all be in this same place, because there would be so much greatness here that we couldn't be contained. We learned how watching the movie is the very thing that inhibits us, because it reminds us of the power of pain. Because pain has such a long memory that it begins to trip us up and does not allow us to go forward. It's the things that have happened to us in our past that prevent us from going forward. But you all understood last night as you were reminded that you are powerful, potent, potential, from the word potent, that you're powerful, excellent, majestic even, and meant for greatness. But now I'm going to turn the corner today, and I want to focus on the power of being wrong. Because every time that I'm doing what I'm doing, if it's whether I'm on a TV set, whether I'm walking, in the mall somewhere and I meet someone and we start to talk, if it's after a session, if it's in my practice where I'm working with clients, this is the thing that always comes up. How do I stop these problems that we're having? The biggest is circular arguing. So I want to start with this. It's the problems that we cannot solve that destroy our relationships. Oh, everybody understands that you're going to have problems in life, right? But it's the problems that you're unable to solve that besets the relationship. Now, I want to talk about this. There's 4 different stages of relationships. 4. You have that euphoric phase, whether it's romantic relationship or whether it's friend or whether it's business, where you feel a real connection. You're happy to be talking to that person. Things are going well. You see it as wonderful. You unconsciously make a decision in the second phase to make this your new normal, to embed this person in the fabric of your life, meaning that you make room for them, meaning that you agree that you're going to coalesce together, right? Then there's a third phase. This is the breakdown. All relationships go through the same cycle. Even at an unconscious level, we're not aware that this is happening. In the breakdown, the lights turn on. And now you can see all of the wrinkles. You can see all of the faults that you didn't see before. But it's the same person. The breakdown. In the breakdown phase, now their breath smells. Now they can't fly. They're no longer perfect. And then it leads us into the final phase, which is the valley of decisions. This is the phase where now that we see that the lights are on and this is not the present that we thought we were unwrapping, and we see it as different, we have to make a decision. Are we willing to go forward with the relationship, even though now we done turned on the lights and we see that the gift looks like it's used because we done been through something, that it might have been re-gifted, We see that it might have been bought on sale and it ain't designer. In the valley of decision, we must make a decision. Do we go forward or do we stay and go backward? Now, there's a story about a Jewish girl. Her name was Ruth. Ruth had lost everything. The lights had been turned on. She has to make a decision. Will she go to this place that she does not know, or will she stay back? Her sister-in-law decided she was going to go back. Ruth said, I'm going to go. Hear me now. She didn't know what she was going into. She knew the destination, but she didn't understand what was going to happen when she got there. She didn't know who was going to be good to her. She didn't know what her end would be. She decided to go forward. We know her name. We know her history. We do not know what happened to her sister-in-law who decided not to go forward. In your relationships, you might already have gone through the breakdown phase many times. You might be stuck in it right now. You're in the valley of decision now. What are you going to do? Are you going to go forward? Are you going to stay where you are? Or are you going to go backwards? Some of you have already decided to stay, but not go forward. Some of you have decided to go back, and you're just waiting for your exit. So you're present in the relationship, but your heart is somewhere else. This message is for you. This message is also for those of you who feel as if you've had some difficult cycles in your life and you've been unable to break them. I want to share with you the power of being wrong. Because the power of being wrong has the power to heal and to make whole. It is the power to transform the very soul. There's something about when somebody makes you feel like it's okay to be you, even though you've been regifted, even though you were used. Are you hearing me? This is all embedded in the power of being wrong. So when we hit this phase, how did we get there? Where we're in this phase where the relationship is now in this cycle of a downturn. I want you to understand that nothing unusual has happened to you. This is what we call life. This is just how it goes. I personally don't want a friendship. I don't want any relationship in my life that has never been tested. If it's not gone through the breakdown stage and been able to recover, I am not going to make an investment in it. Are you hearing me? So don't think that this isn't happening to the people sitting next to you. Oh, it has. This is why 80% of the people that get divorced say that if they had it to do again, they wouldn't remain married. You know why? Because no matter where they go, their relationships are going to go through these same 4 phases. Number 2, it takes more energy usually to break up than it does to stay together. Either way, you're going to have to invest and put in the work because you're going to have to work. And you keep all your stuff. Do not, you're going to leave with half of what you invested and worked hard for. Are you listening to me? Hear me by the Spirit, because I'm saying something that's very subtle. It's abstract. But I'm going to try to hardwire it so that you can understand it and apply it in your life. So when you start having circular arguments, it means that you've hit an area in your relationship where the same problem keeps coming up. Now, arguments are good because what they indicate to you is that it's time for your relationship to evolve. You've grown to a point where you've outgrown. You ever seen somebody in high water pants? They've outgrown them pants. Likewise, in your relationship, sometimes you come to that evolutionary point where you've outgrown where you were. And so now you have to level up. And you know what happens is when you don't level up, guess what? You get stuck. Circular arguing. So the pain and the arguing is an indication that I have to what? Change. Something has to change. So now you have to do the work to figure out what is it in our relationship that I need to change. That other partner has to be saying the same thing. As long as you're doing this, it's not going to happen. Because what happens is you become so invested in your perspective, so invested and entrenched in your own position that you reach a stalemate. Sounds familiar? So you keep arguing about the same thing over and over again without a breakthrough, without a resolve, without a healing, and without peace. A stalemate. So even though this is a normal thing that all relationships go through, if you stay in that phase for too long, the relationship can become toxic. And this is why some of us have to move to divorce. Because you have not been able to break it so that you can move on. And now you're stuck in this place and you keep reliving. So what happens? Resentment keeps building up. When resentment builds up, we close our heart. It shuts down. We start inflicting wounds. We become so wounded that before one wound can heal, you're getting inflicted with another one. Toxic relationships. You're not toxic. You're becoming toxic because you've not figured out your workaround to break through. Are you following me? Is everybody with me? Here are some reasons why you also get stuck. Are you forgetting about the other person? Are you forgetting about the bigger picture? There was a Jewish rabbi that moved in next to my building. And so, he's Orthodox, with the candy curls and all. And wonderful man started talking to me one day, and I had been asked to write a book for Charisma Publishing. And so I asked him a couple of questions about Hebrew and stuff like that. He said something very interesting to me. Two things, actually. The first one, he said, we believe. Now, y'all do know that the Bible is written by Jews, right? Okay, I just want to make sure that we write historically. He said, we believe that if you and your partner are in marriage together and you're asking God to bless you, or you're asking God for something specific, maybe it's something for your children, or you're wanting a new home or whatever, that if we break our bond of unity by arguing or fighting, God will not hear the prayer. Now, I don't know about you, but a whole bunch of things come to mind when I say that. Scriptures, teachings come to mind. The second thing he said is, we believe that when we pray and we ask God for an answer, we look to our wife for the answer. Now, when he said that, I was like, hold up, because that just sounds real foreign to me. So I said, but why would you do that? He said, because we know that the woman is the more sensitive part of ourselves. So they understand that he and she are equal opposites. That she has a part that he doesn't have, and he has a part that she doesn't have. So the woman is more sensitive, so they believe that she's able to pick up what God is saying more readily than the man. Now, I'm not trying to point no fingers. But if you are a man sitting here and it's hard for you to be told something by your wife, you need to put a pin in it. You need to go back and revisit because something's out of order. It's equal opposites. I recognize that my husband's the one that stabilizes me because I'm more emotional. And I'm telling you, women, y'all crazy. No, but for real. I grew up with a lot of men, boys. I was the only girl, so, I'm more male, but still I'm more emotional than my husband. And so I see it because I'm somewhere in the middle, and I'm working around a lot of women. Look around my staff, it's the women outnumber the men. And y'all a little crazy. It's like y'all get these feelings. You want people to read your mind. Y'all don't speak directly. I feel bad for you fellas. But what we have to do is begin to appreciate our differences, because it's the differences when put together that make us great. You might have heard me say that I am the machine gun Kelly in our relationship. I'm the one that communicates like this. Ta, 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 ta. You know, I shoot anything moving. But then my husband's like, pow, pow, you know. But what happens? He slows me down and I speed him up. Equal opposites. She's the sensitive one. She's the one that notices everything. Why? Because that's how we're built. We can come into a room and notice the one thing that's out of place. Y'all don't care. Y'all are a bit more not thinking or looking at anything in this room other than the big screen, because it reminds you of a TV that you wish you had that was that big on your wall. You know? Men are more interested in function. Women are interested in all the details. Why is it this way? What usefulness does it bring? Does it create an atmosphere that, makes us feel inspired? You go to a man's house, he has that TV sitting up on a box or a cooler or something, and it's fine like that because why? He can watch it. But a woman, everything has to coordinate, it has to match, and this is the way that we are. And we need to feel secure. So we like to have structure. Why? Because women need to feel protected. Men, you need to feel respected. So guess what happens when we reach circular arguments? You don't feel respected because we're not happy. So then it begins to trigger you. And then when you react, it triggers her. So now you have this cycle that keeps going around and around and around. And how do we break it? I'm going to tell you. We're finding ourselves in this same situation right now in a nation. Our nation is so divided, and it seems like we can't find the place of breakthrough so that we can find ourselves on the same page. A house divided, what? But love. I thought I really did love, and I had to think about it. I have a lot of buts in my love. Don't you hate it when somebody says sorry, but? I really have a lot of, I love you, but don't get on my nerves. Don't disregard what's important to me. Don't make me feel like I'm not heard. And definitely don't cheat on me. Don't betray me. Because if you do, then this is what I'm going to do, right? But I found this thing, the power of being wrong. The power of being wrong has the ability to make the other person feel, because you can't do it unless you first grapple with my question. Do you really love with agape? Do you really understand that your relationship is about a strategic force to bring about a partnership that brings certain individuals into this planet, that it's a strategic partnership that enables you to become who you're meant to be and to support them so that they become who they're meant to be so that you can impact the world? Do you really believe that? Because sometimes we lose sight of that as we're getting so entrenched and becoming more stubborn, resentful, retaliatory. But there's something about love. It prefers the other above itself. Sometimes you got to think about, do you want to be happy or do you want to be whole? Do you want to be married or do you want to just stick to your position? Because I've seen where circular arguments begins to deconstruct that wonderful bond that you have with each other. Because then they stop trusting you. They start to see you as an adversary instead of as a partner. Circular arguments. But love is, I believe, what I want to refocus us on. Love is everything. And if I understand who my husband is and what he's been through and what he's going through every day by asking these three questions: Why is this important to him? What is he dealing with? And is this more important? So I remember what the rabbi said just a couple of times. And I was really seeking some very important things in our life. And so we erupted in an argument. And you know, arguments always happen at the most inopportune time when you really don't need to be arguing. Don't you ever say this like, I don't need this right now, right? I just had an argument with my son before I came on stage yesterday, and I said, please, not now, because I know how he is. He's the old Jackie, the BC Jackie, the before, the BC. That's my son. And so he's younger, of course. He's like 30 years younger than me. So I wanted him, I said, I have to perform today. I have to speak. Let me stay centered. But what happens is, when I started to think about what I looked at the bigger picture. I looked at legacy versus this dispute. What are we building together? Where are we going together? What is it that we're trying to do together? If that's not at the forefront of your relationship, you will get trapped when you get to that breakdown point of your relationship, because you will have lost focus. And it'll be more about being right and winning that fight than remembering where you're going. Ruth never forgot. And she was willing to forget everything else and make that the principal thing, her expected end. Even though she couldn't tell you how it was going to happen, she couldn't tell you all the details, she understood that that was the destination. What is your destination? You need to refresh the vision of why you all are together, what it is you're trying to do, and what you want to arrive at. But I thought about it and I said, the bigger picture is this fight is not worth all the work that I've put in and what I'm asking for, even in prayer, for me to lose that for this. And I thought about my husband and I said, this must really mean a lot to him. I see how his emotions are involved. And so I just said, you know what, you're right. Now I'm going to be honest. And I hope you believe me. I didn't say it like, well, you're right. I really knew that I was right and he was wrong. But in my heart, he was right. And I really meant it. Because, there's a very strong difference between when somebody says, I'm sorry, and then when they repent and they say, I'm sorry. And it's with atonement that I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it right. I'm going to work to make you whole because I drew first blood. Do you understand? I saw the bigger picture. You can go on and clap for that because that's powerful. What was more important was him, not what we were arguing about. And at that very moment, I became enthroned as a kingmaker. I understood that I had the power to build something back in him that life had torn down. I understood that I had the power to heal something in him that somebody else stole from him when he was a young man. See, I really did understand that me being wrong was right for that situation. Because in it, I was saying to him, I accept you and I love you so much that I'm never going to hurt you, even if it means that I got to step down from my position. I'll do it gladly, and I did. And since that time, something transformed in me. Because it's like all of a sudden, it's like, 20/20 vision came back. And it was like I was restored in my ability to see what was more important. I was restored in my ability to see him in his humanity. And then I was able to see again how I need to treat that king. I feel like I'm not explaining this well enough. You sure? And then something happened in him, because then it seemed as if, because I'm going to tell you, this last round of that circular argument, it was rough. There was one that we reached where I was like thinking about, I got to pack up my bags. But I was going to keep the house though. But literally, I realized, like, you know what? I realized that sometimes when we're in circular arguments, we undervalue the relationship based on 2 or 3 small things. Whatever we've been arguing about so long done got on our nerves so much that it's become this big. And so I was able to understand that, you know what, this is a good man, even with that circular argument. Now, I don't know where I'm going to find somebody else like Bear. And I said to myself, I'm serious. Now, it's hard to find a good man or a good woman. That's not something you can just throw a stick and land on one, right? And then I said, if I looked at all of his flaws or all of the things that weren't what I wanted, I still choose him. Because he is altogether lovely. Even though we had this circular arguing. And so when I made up my mind about that, it's like a lot of things became very clear. And then it's like everything began to shrink back down into proportion. Don't magnify. You might have to take a list and write down what's the good and what's the bad so that you can make an honest evaluation. And then you wouldn't believe how it changes how you see things. This is why we have body dysmorphism. People start looking at something so much and picking at one little small flaw that it begins to enlarge. It inflames, and then before you know it, that's all they see when they look in the mirror. Don't do that when you're looking at your relationship, because none of them are perfect. But what I learned is, if we learn to really love, stop keeping account of wrongs done, really begin to forgive, really begin to understand emotional intelligence. If I see that you just came home from work and you snap on me, and I can see that you had a bad day, I have no right to take that personally. Because when it happens to you, you do the same thing, and you want grace. You want understanding. So I'm asking you to look again. I'm asking you to see your relationship 360. I'm asking you to consider the history of what each of you have been through, understanding your triggers, your defense mechanisms, understanding your emotional volatility or the fact that you have none. Because what we tend to see is that an emotional person is paired with one that is non-emotional, right? I want you to really begin to feel that other person and see, am I really showing love? Am I not? And I had to realize, I really do get upset. And I do get resentful because he did that. I might not act out because I've learned to remain the same. Still run his bathwater. Still serve him his food. But if I'm doing it with something in my heart that's not open and free, then it means that I've done like Pua, and I've stuck myself at this place where I've refused to go forward, even though I'm physically there. But in my heart, I believe I've married a king. I believe he's a giant and that he's undefeatable if I can undergird him with the right love and compassion instead of this, which I was really good at doing. I had a PhD. They called me doctor. I had a PhD in that. And I just want to say in closing, be careful, women, because we are very detail-oriented. Know how to praise your husband and how to give positive reinforcement for the small things that he does. And remember from what we talked about last night about passive-aggressive, some of that stuff is on purpose. Some of their missteps because they're just sick and tired of your butt. Gnawing, right? And so remember how to celebrate. Remember how to love despite. That's the one thing that I've always told people about my bear. I don't feel judged. I feel like I'm good. Now, I'm starting to wear wigs now, y'all, because it's easier for me to travel and do the hair. I'm not used to a wig. This don't look good when you take that off, You got to do some prep work that don't look good when you take this off. I just feel like I'm accepted. I'm embraced regardless. And I want to be able to give that. I want to be able to give that back to you. I hope that I expressed it well enough and that you were able to understand. But I want you to put some of that power of being wrong on your partner to such an extent that you wear them out. All right. Now I'm going to close. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to close with just the opportunity for a few questions and answers. I was negligent last night to do the questions and answers. And it can be questions even from last night's topic or today's. This is the place where I shine. And I feel like this is the place where the room transforms even more. Because you might ask a question that you think is for you. But when you ask it, the question is for at least 5 or 10 other people in the room. And they get to receive the assistance as well. So the first question. Staff with a mic, if you can just raise your hand. Don't tell me I'm going to have to incentivize y'all not to be shy. Go ahead, back in the back of the room.
Good morning, everybody. My crew, they was already talking about, yeah, good, they're going to have some questions when they get up there. But I don't really have a question as much as I have a statement. And I thought it important to share. Because it was a question at the beginning, but as you were speaking, like I feel like, man, I have the answer to that. That circular argument that we have, that we all have, I'm like, man, I feel that I'm good at not watching the movie, so to speak. I feel like I'm good at, all right, I know why we're together, and I can look ahead. But I feel like, am I just ignoring this because we come back? Like, am I doing a disservice like it's there? So how can I say it? I get upset because I feel like it's still there and I'm just pushing it on the rug and it's there. It's not going away. I'm just ignoring it and I feel like I'm just covering it up with something, But I don't know. Again, I don't have a question, but now I had it all in my head and it's all
Well, I hear your question. Your question is, this is what I've been doing.
Yeah.
I try to look forward, but I don't feel that the situation has been fixed yet.
Yeah.
So what do I do? I think that you have to fix the situation, though, because that's the demand that the arguing is putting on you. It's an indication that it's time for things to change, right?
Yeah.
So you have to begin to have the conversation. What happens is we're not all ready to have a sold-out conversation. So instead, we come to the conversation with these preconceived positions, and the conversation just keeps going in a circle. So you have to begin to ask, what is the problem? Sometimes the question is, what is it that you're afraid of?
Yeah.
And when the person answers that question, you can see your way now because they've explained to you what they're afraid of. So a lot of times we argue around something without really hitting the hot button. This is what it's all about. But instead of just saying that, we argue around the periphery. So maybe that's a good way to start. Or what is it that you feel that you need that you're not getting? So for me, I'm the only female in my house. So I was the only girl. I had 3 brothers. And now I'm the only girl. I was the only girl in my family, and it was my husband and my 2 sons. And I just felt like they didn't hear me. And they usually don't, to be honest. It's the truth. They don't. They don't like for any emotion. So if I show any emotion, they'll be like, wait, now hold up. What's going on? What's happening? And my other son's excuse for that is he'll come and pick me up and say, you just need a hug. And I was like, I don't want a hug. And he'll just forcibly hug me. So you all understand, I do feel like I'm not heard. But they're in a very male, dominant, atmosphere. And they want to keep it that way. So what I had to realize was I can't keep complaining because I don't feel heard. I don't feel heard. I don't feel heard. What do I need to do to change that situation? So what I found out is a lot of times we point and we're mad at the other person because we feel that they've done something to us. But really the situation is putting a demand on you to become someone different. So I had to figure out what did I need to be to stop that. And for one thing, I had to not put up with some of the things I was putting up with. And it doesn't mean that I act out in a negative way, but I have to take a stand.
Yeah.
And so I began to act on what I recognized that I needed to do. And it made a really big difference. Yes.
Last night, you talked about becoming someone different, but you talked about it in different contexts. Becoming someone different than who you are emotionally. But you said we're always changing also, right? But so last night, I was hoping to ask a question too, but so I'm asking now. Sometimes I feel like situations cause me to not be who I am, and it's over time. It's not like a situation. Over time causes you not to be, let's say, for example, as affectionate as you normally are. And so submit to, I guess, what the situation is. And over a period of time, you feel like you're just not you.
Okay. So are you happy about the transformation or the transformation that you've made or not?
I think I'm still in the middle of it.
So his question is really important, isn't it? So I think that what we have to realize in life is that you're never going to be the same person all the time. You have to be always in flux. You're always going to be transformative, changing as you're evolving, right? So I'm assuming that the reason why you're not as affectionate is because maybe your wife doesn't like you as affectionate all the time. Is that right, wife? See, she said, Go ahead and give her the mic. She needs to be heard too. Go ahead. Let's work this out. Is that right?
She really don't like me now. Sorry.
So you don't like him being affectionate all the time?
Well, it's not that.
Okay.
So we've been to many sessions and, couple encounters or whatever it is. And over the years, I've learned when we first got together, he was very touchy, and, I've explained to him, like, I didn't grow up like that. My mom barely ever said she loved me. She barely hugged me. We just didn't do it, And what I've learned, too, is that situations from my childhood, would cause me to pull back, So it's not that I didn't want him to touch me. It just made me feel a certain way. So I didn't want to bury that, what he have, because I do want it, but I think he had to just kind of learn that you can't just run up and grab me.
So this is what I would suggest, right? I have a similar experience. My husband grew up like that. He knew he was loved, but they were not very affectionate like that in his household. And so a lot of times when people are like that, even when you get upset, you need more space. And you don't want to be too, close to the person or whatever. As long as it's not because you're trying to, be retaliatory or to pout or whatever, then that's fine. But what I think is important is that you have to communicate what is good and when. And maybe that you even have, I love buzzwords. Like a code word that you use. Like maybe he asks you, babes. Maybe that's what he says, and that means I want to grab you or I want to hug you or whatever right now. And then you can be prepared, number one, and you can determine what kind of touching you want at that particular time. But I believe that you have to gradually begin to increase it, because I clearly heard you say, I do want that though. I don't want him to lose that. And so the dance that you're going to be in is trying to make sure that you don't mute him, that you don't shut him down, but then also that you're comfortable, but that you're growing, because you don't want to stay where you're at. The goal is for you to grow and to change, to meet somewhere in the middle. Are you hearing me? So he's not as affectionate, you're not non-affectionate, somewhere in the middle, you see? So you have to work that out. Because my husband was the same way. But man, that joker can't even, every time we're together now, somewhere we're touching, our bodies are touching. If we sit and watching TV, the legs are touching, a foot is touching, or the hands are touching, something is touching. And he started off like you. But I was determined on what I wanted to have in terms of as an expected end. And then we had our plan and how we worked to arrive there. And so you have to be, because see, the opposition for you, the fight in your mind, sir, is going to be that I'm being rejected. Remember, I talked about emotions before. Emotions, just because you have them doesn't mean that they're accurate. Emotions lie. So you have to fight that, and you have to manage your mind against it. Thank you. Next question. Yes, over here. We have a question in the front here. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll come to you next, sir. Yes. Good morning. We can't hear you. How many minutes do I have?
Good morning. I've enjoyed everything this morning and last night, the power of being wrong. Help me with this, please. Mm-hmm. What happens when your right becomes wrong to benefit peace, to bring peace in the relationship so that the circle can stop? With one argument or one indifference, after a minute, a slick-mouthed person might say, "You're correct. You are correct, and I am wrong. Forgive me." But at the same time, I have to find my peace in the situation. Mm-hmm. Just because I still don't think you're right, but so that this circle can stop with this incident. So how could you help me?
So I used to do what you're saying, which is just to stop it, I would do that. But I didn't have the heart connection. So the difference was I did it so that things could be better and move forward. But I didn't do it for the person. So someone was just telling me the other day, one of my relatives, my aunt married this guy. He had a set of 2 kids with his former wife. So when he married my aunt, they came to live with my aunt and he. All these years, I knew when I was growing up that those 2 kids didn't feel the same. They didn't feel as loved or whatever. So my cousin was telling me, oh, I heard her just recently repeating the story to someone, and she said, my dad stole us away from my mother. Really, it was the mom that gave them to the dad to go live with his new wife. But you know, she said, I didn't even correct him. Sometimes people need that. There was something that happened with my husband and I. It wounded me very deeply. I felt that I didn't have what I needed from him at a certain key point, a key time. Now, you know, a lot of times you argue about stuff, you don't even remember what you argued about. But you know, when it cuts deep, you remember. And I could not move past that, because know what it did? The wound hurt me, and it made me then become afraid. Suppose he's not there for this thing or that. Do you understand? And we went around and around at about that for, I'm talking about years, until finally, unfortunately, he said he really didn't even remember all of the details. And it's unfortunate, but it does happen. That's why I was saying, I looked at his emotion and I knew that he needed that. I'm not talking about just being passive aggressive and saying, you're right, don't, you know, and it's, you know, just sort of the situation. I'm saying you do it for them because you love that person so much that you honor them above yourself. That their welfare to you is more important than your position in the argument. That's what I'm talking about. When that happened, something happened to me. So my husband was able to say he was sorry about that. I needed that. I needed for him, it was the only thing that was able to cut me from the tether, that rope that had me tethered to something that happened in my past. I couldn't move past it until he was able to say, I'm sorry, and specifically specify what it was. Because you can cut a tree down, but if you don't get rid of that stump, it will grow back. He had to go do the root work and say specifically, I didn't do this. This made you feel, and now I realize my error. And here's the thing. He was going through grief. He had lost his mom, and I understood that. But he was never able to recognize it and say, yeah, that, had some bearing or that. So, it wasn't like but I needed that. So what I'm saying is a little different, though. It's not just for peacemaking. It's for king-making also. It's for the legacy that you're building out. So because I love and I prefer you above myself, I'm more concerned about how you feel than anything else. And when I take that big thing and I make it so small, it gives them the power to make a lot of other things small too about me. And so on, and so on, and so on. So that we begin to keep the main thing the main thing. Amen. Do I have time for another question? Just this gentleman here. How am I on time, Xavier? Okay.
Hey, Dr. Jacquie.
Hi.
Hi. In relation to the theme this morning, the power of being wrong, I started to look at comparing that to conflict. Many times we try, with myself, I'm not afraid of conflict. I don't look for conflict, but I'm not afraid of it. But I think sometimes we're afraid of conflict, especially in a relationship, because we're afraid of being exposed that we were actually the person that was wrong. And so how do you address that? Because I'm looking at how the power of that is in the conflict and trying to resolve whatever that resolution is. It may expose that I was at wrong and thought that I was right. So how do you address that when it comes to conflict or dealing with conflict when it comes to in our relationship?
So again, I think that this power of being wrong, it transforms this way and it also transforms this way. So it transforms your partner, but it also transforms you. Being able to say that you're wrong gives everybody in the room the permission not to be perfect. So I see that even as a leader to say, I was wrong when I did. But then I also look for it from them jokers too. Because now I'm showing you that from my seat, I can admit that I did something wrong or it was my fault. So I'm empowering you to be able to do the same thing. And when everybody comes down like that, we all take our mask off. And we can really do this thing. And so I think the part of saying sorry and wrong is pivotal. If you don't use those two elements, you're playing at this thing. You ain't real yet. You have to be able to say, I was wrong. Listen, one time I had lost something, and I could have sworn that my husband had put it somewhere or whatever, and, lo and behold, I found it. Now, I could have, because nobody saw me when I found it. I could have just went on about my business because I had carried on about, no, I'm telling you, you had it, and da-da-da-da-da. And I found that thing. There's nobody that could say anything if I would have just left it there and went on about my business or pretend. I went back and I said, I found it. I was wrong. It was where you said. That's important. If you can't say sorry or sorry doesn't come to your mind right away because you're trying to make somebody whole, you're trying to make them right. If that doesn't even come in your mind, you'll know that you're fighting to win. And you'll also know that you have so much resentment that your heart can't even feel, or your eyes can't see the other person. Your heart cannot feel them. Because you're that callous now that sorry isn't even something that comes to your mind. Y'all better write that down. Say sorry and say you're wrong. And here's the other caveat. It doesn't mean that they're going to transform overnight. So you have to be willing to be patient with this, because they still might not come back and then give it back to you in the measure that you're giving. Remember, it's the strong that bear the infirmities of the weak. I want to also leave you with this. I just want to say, because I just heard this, there's a lot of you all that are going through child rearing. This puts the greatest stress on relationships. It's wonderful when you're pregnant with the first one. Oh, that's amazing. But go ahead and have that joker and then get pregnant with the second one while you got another little one running around. Childbearing and child rearing puts the greatest stressor on your relationship. So what I want you to do is really give each other permission, because sometimes you're so wound up from what you had to do at work and how to get out of the house, packing up all these little people. It's like your nerves are already frazzled and stuff. And so you have to be willing to remember that and to give grace to one another, when you're going through it. And understand that your relationship is under greater attack because you are in this stage of child rearing. And I think that gives me the last minutes of my time. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Dr. Jacquie here. I'm your how-to lady. How to do life, how to do love, and how to do you, boo. So click, like, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more to come.